Hey guys, Mulligan here, and I wanted to apologize really quick about there being no upload this past Friday. I had to juggle some things going on in real life that are still going on, but we should be back on track regardless. So for those waiting for Eternal Airs to start back up, that will very likely be this Friday. Today I wanted to do a bit of a different video for Eternal. More specifically, I wanted to compare the length of Eternal's initial campaign to Hearthstone's, and also compare the length of their full campaigns for each game as well. The reason why I wanted to do a video on this is because, as some of you are probably aware, there was a lot of talk in the community a while back that Eternal's campaign takes way too long to finish, and that it's the reason why some people never stick with the game. I've been mulling over this topic for a few weeks now, and I've always been the type of person to ask why when it comes to almost everything. I always want to explore why people think certain ways about things, and also if there's a potential to debunk myths, then I usually want to take a crack at it. So I finally started my Asia account in Hearthstone and set up a second account for Eternal to test this out. A little story first though. So initially this video was going to be a simple side-by-side comparison of the two campaigns with no real editing of any kind, and both would be timed. The plan was to compare how long the initial part of the campaign for each game takes, Hearthstone's initial campaign being a tutorial-style gauntlet where you play 6 games as Jaina Proudmoore, the main hero of the mage class in the game, and Hearthstone's mascot. Eternal's campaign is basically just part 1 of a more expansive campaign that is also a tutorial style gauntlet where you play 4 games as Caleb, one of the scions in the Eternal universe. The difference being that Eternal doesn't have classes, only colors and factions like Magic the Gathering. And beating Caleb's portion of the full campaign awards you with a fire starter deck. Then I was going to see how long it takes to get all the basic cards for every class in Hearthstone's case, and then how long it takes to get all the starter decks in Eternal's case. But because it takes so long to get everything for one of the games I played, I couldn't just do a side-by-side comparison. The video would have been at least 7 hours long. And spoiler, the game that takes that long isn't Eternal. One more quick note. I will be looking at both of these campaigns through the lens of a new player that is looking to get into ranked play and is not so interested in the draft or forge formats of Eternal or the arena format in Hearthstone. So let's start off with Hearthstone. The initial campaign with Jaina took me about 25 minutes to complete. You are then taken to the main menu of the game and now have a feel for how the mage class works. However, there are 8 other classes that need to be unlocked if you want to play them. The only way to unlock them is to go into practice mode under solo adventures and play against the AI using each class. This takes time as well. As someone with previous experience in playing Hearthstone's campaign and previous card game experience in general, it took me about another 35 minutes to complete this. But even after that, there are still the basic cards to be obtained, and you need to reach level 10 in every class to get all of them. However, this is where I think Blizzard was pretty clever in designing around the Warcraft class-based level up system they've got going on in Hearthstone. They don't force you to play in a longer gauntlet-style campaign to unlock the basic cards. You are free to go into any mode you want, and your class character will gain experience to level up as you play games regardless of the mode. Funny thing is though, playing the Innkeeper, which is the AI, is actually the fastest way to level up. Even though you get more experience points for playing a real person, what people forget to take into account is the time it takes for your real opponent to make decisions. Unlike the Innkeeper, who plays cards immediately. Turns take a lot longer when you play a real person because you're spending time waiting for them to do everything they want on their turn. I got all the class cards for 5 of the classes, and honestly, I got pretty burned out from playing the Innkeeper over and over. So I stopped, and I was clocked in at about 5 hours and 45 minutes at that time. So I'm going to bet that it takes 45 to 60 minutes to get each class to level 10. And there are 9 classes in total. At best, it'll take someone 7 hours to get all the classes to level 10. Now, you can argue that Hearthstone's class-based system allows you to not have to get all the cards from all classes if you want to focus only on one or a few classes. But some of the basic cards that have seen use in competitive decks require you to get the class to level 10. Cards that come to mind are Flame Strike for Mage, Kill Command for Hunter, Fire Elemental for Shaman, and Arcanite Reaper for Warrior. And I believe you need to get Druid to level 8 to earn Swipe, which is still a mandatory card for the class even today. So those are my findings for Hearthstone. Let's talk about Eternal. And there are a few weird things about the Eternal campaign that I didn't remember from the first time I played it. So I'm probably going to give different time frames for different things. So Caleb alone took me just under 20 minutes to complete. The thing is, though, that the game immediately took me to Vara's part of the campaign. I personally remember the game sending me back to the main menu after doing Caleb's part back in open beta. The beginning of open beta, I should say. However, the game did take me back to the main menu after I finished Vara's portion. Not sure if this is intentional or not. Maybe Direwolf Digital wants to find a balance between making the player feel like they have enough cards between 2 colors, but not forcing them to stay in the entire campaign so they can explore other parts of the game. I don't want to dig too deep into it. It could have kind of just been a one-off thing. But because of this, I feel I also need to give the time it took me to do Caleb and Vara's parts together, which was about 40 minutes. Now, you do still have the option to go to the main menu after Caleb's campaign is done. It's just not done automatically for you. You have to do it yourself by hitting the back button and then the home button, or hitting the Eternal logo at the top of the screen. Now, Eternal forces you to finish the campaign to get the other starter decks, unfortunately. However, there aren't any special cards in the starter decks that you can't get otherwise by opening packs or pulling them in a draft or forge. Unlike Hearthstone, where there is no other way to get the basic cards for each class. You have to level up the classes. The quote-unquote exception to this are the Scion cards themselves that you get a copy of for finishing each of their stories in the campaign, since they are legendary cards. But it's not like you can't pull them from a pack. And as of the making of this video, only one of the Scions even sees real play in Constructed. One great thing about the campaign, you are allowed to skip around to each character's portion of the campaign. You don't have to do them in order. Each character represents a color, a faction in the game. So let's say you want to get the Justice starter deck after finishing Kayla's part so you can have some semblance of a Rakano deck. Roland's story is the last character you play as far as the order of the campaign, but you can skip right to him if you want. The only exception, I believe, is what I'll call the bonus part of the campaign, which is with Caiaphas. So a little spoiler there, but I'm almost positive you have to do all 5 stories to access the bonus 6th part of the campaign with Caiaphas. All in all, it took me approximately 2 hours to do all 5 stories, including the bonus 6th story. I can see someone finishing in less time than that. This was with me listening to all the lore and even clicking all the "did you know" tip bubbles every time they popped up on screen and reading them. So, some final thoughts. I think the intent behind getting the initial basic cards in Hearthstone and the initial starter decks in Eternal is to not do everything in one session and to give the option to play the actual game once you are done with the first portion of the campaign. Or in Eternal's case, possibly the second portion, at least in my experience. A lot of people in the Eternal community feel that getting all the starter decks in the campaign is mandatory, and I agree as well. But it seems like Direwolf Digital's intent for the campaign was that it wasn't designed to do it all in one sitting, at least from the way I see it. One of the big reasons for me doing this was because a lot of people were saying Eternal's campaign takes too long to get all the starter decks. And so I started thinking, okay, let's compare that to Hearthstone, the biggest digital card game in the market, and see how long it takes to get all the basic cards in that game. 2 hours for Eternal versus 7 hours minimum for Hearthstone. As far as getting all the cards that start you off goes, it doesn't take nearly as long to do so in Eternal. Now, the reality though, when it comes to Hearthstone, is that most players will probably pick 1 or 2 classes to focus on getting the necessary cards for to make a competent deck for ranked play, and eventually focus on the other classes to get their basic cards later on, just by playing the game. But I simply wanted to compare the length of time needed to get all basic cards or starter decks for both games. And again, you can technically do the same thing in Eternal by skipping around to different parts of the campaign if you only wanted to get 2 or 3 starter decks for specific colors. So that's that. A comparison of the campaigns for Eternal and Hearthstone with a focus on how long it takes to get all the cards from each. For those that stuck around to the end, thank you so much for watching. This is my first time doing content like this, so I hope you all liked the video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. One thing I want to mention though, if any of you still want to see the actual time frame comparison for both games, let me know in the comments below and I can upload that for you. Just know it will be about a 3-hour long video because I feel that's long enough to show proof of my findings and get my point across. And I'll update the video description with a link to that, since if I do something like that, it'll be unlisted on YouTube. For those new, I have been focusing on putting out content for Eternal. I think it's safe to say that it's the main game I play now. But I do dabble in other games as well, although lately it's just been Overwatch. But it looks like that's going to change as well. But more than anything really, I just want to make content that interests me. I usually upload on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays unless otherwise noted on social media. So if you don't want to miss out on future videos, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon next to the subscribe button so you're always notified whenever I put out a new video. Because apparently YouTube doesn't always notify all of your subscribers whenever a new video does come out. Anyway, that may be another topic for another day. If you do want to follow me on social media, check out the links that I have below in the video description. I mainly hang out on Twitter though. But thanks so much for taking time out of your day to watch this video. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you all soon. Take care.